People, welcome to the third episode of Hip Hop Orchestra Presents with Georgio Savvides. And as you guessed from the title of this episode, it's going to be a slightly more personal matter, something I wasn't really going to talk about before, but I thought it would be really beneficial and hopefully enlightening and inspirational to a lot of people. And that is, I have dyspraxia. Now, in this episode, what I will be doing is I'm going to be talking about, obviously, dyspraxia in a lot more detail, reading off the NHS website, which I'll leave a link to down below, which you can check out whenever you want to. Reading in more detail as I go along and maybe either in between or afterwards, I'll be talking about how it kind of affects me and how I've overcome it. So here we go. Now, I know quite a lot of us have heard what dyspraxia is, but might not know what it is exactly. And obviously, everyone's heard of dyslexia. But dyspraxia is quite a common thing, mainly in men, actually. And what it stands for is it's a developmental coordination disorder, or DCD for short, in adults and in kids as well, obviously. And I was diagnosed at 15 as having dyspraxia because when I was at school growing up, I found things really difficult, and it came across that I was lazy or just wasn't trying, but in fact, I found things stupidly difficult. And so we got tested, and during that test, I did several kind of tests, such as speech tests to try to find differences in pictures and so forth. And I can't remember, it was 17 years ago now, but did it and came out as I was dyspraxic. So since then, we've kind of worked on things. But it says here that dyspraxia does not affect your intelligence, but it may make daily life more difficult for you, which for me it does, because I'll read it as I go along. It can affect your coordination skills, such as requiring balance, playing sports, or learning to drive a car, and your fine motor skills, such as writing or using small objects. So if you know me very well, I talk bloody fast, I mumble, and I repeat the same things, which I mentioned in the first episode, actually. I don't mean to talk fast at all, obviously. It's not my fault. I don't mean to do. I've practiced, obviously, but I don't mean to talk that fast, and I find socializing with people really, really difficult. And every day, without fault, I bump my elbows into things all the time. Don't mean to, obviously, and I find it really hard to walk in a straight line. Really hard to walk in a straight line. I don't know why. I do know it's dyspraxia, but I walk like this, I walk like a snake. And holding, like it says here, like holding small objects like pencils and so forth. I tend to drop it quite a lot. My grip's not that good. Even though I play piano, my hands, and go gym, my hands, they're strong as hell. But I find holding like small objects really difficult. And my writing is terrible, which is why I tend to use laptops and computers to write things down. Now, symptoms of dyspraxia are so coordination, balance, and movement. That's an obvious one. Learning new skills, thinking and remembering information at work and in leisure activities. So, so like I said, at school, I struggled big time sort of learning new things. And as much as I love learning, learning new things was a really difficult thing for me. I could read the same page a million times and wouldn't sink in my mind. Someone would tell me something really simply, and it would go like that over my head. Ooh, sorry about that. Daily living skills such as dressing or preparing meals to time. I haven't really struggled with that in a way, but let's carry on. So writing, typing, drawing, and grasping small objects, like we said earlier. So my writing is terrible. It used to be quite neat when I was younger, but if you see my writing as I've gotten older again, I do still do quite a bit of writing when at school and stuff, but writing for me is really difficult. You can't read it. It's really bad. I can understand it just about sometimes, but and grasping small objects, I tend to drop things a lot. Social situations. So like we said earlier, I find things really hard to. I find social situations really awkward and very. They make me panic a bit actually because of my dyspraxia. And when I come in contact with people, as comfortable as I am around them, whether it's family or friends, without meaning to, I kind of panic inside. I kind of have like little panic attacks in a way, and I find it really difficult because I love talking to people, but because of my speech, it makes my speech even faster, makes it mumble even more. And so for those that might think I'm unsociable or I'm talking too fast or mumbling, I don't mean to be, honestly. It's not my fault. So I'm really sorry about that. And that kind of links to the next point is dealing with your emotions. So, like I said, social situations are really difficult, and I find that it kind of upsets me sometimes when I find it hard to talk to people because, say, I've got a joke to say or something good to say, in my mind, I've got it perfectly set up to say, but because of my speech, I have to say it in a different way, and it might not come off in the right way sometimes, or it might not come off as funny or as good in ways. So I find talking to people really difficult. And but the next point it says is time management, planning, and personal organisation. Now, being a full-time teacher, tutor, and running of the orchestra, this has really helped me immensely because it's forced me to be organised. It's forced me to be on time with a lot of things because we always have deadlines, and being a teacher especially, you need to be organised. You need to know what things are. You need to set deadlines and so forth. And the way I've kind of overcome that is using a phone, which I will talk about in more detail in a minute. But I find such things as using a diary on my phone on my laptop as well, and so forth. Writing things down much easier and better for me to remember. Just little things like that. But it says here that dyspraxia should not be confused with other disorders affecting movement, such as cerebral palsy and stroke. It can affect people of all intellectual abilities. So, like they said earlier on the website, it doesn't affect intelligence, but it can affect people of all intellectual abilities. So, even the smartest people have some kind of problems going on, which is what I spoke about in my TED talk. Actually, my talk was about disabilities within music and how certain artists and composers have overcome their disabilities in whatever form it came through. Just looking at people in business, so who haven't got dyspraxia but got things like dyslexia, like people like Richard Branson, who's obviously billionaire now. But now it says here when to see your GP. Now, if you think you may have undiagnosed dyspraxia or problems with your coordination, it's a good idea to keep a diary of your symptoms. So I know what my symptoms are. I'm clumsy, speech, just said speech. Clumsy, speech, my movement, balance. I've known these for years now, which is why I got tested out. But if you feel like you have these kind of symptoms, then go and get checked out. There's literally no harm at all. It might even make your life better. You never know. Also says that your GP may refer you to a physiotherapist or an occupational therapist for tests, and they will assess your movements and how your symptoms are affecting you before making a diagnosis. But this, I knew all that kind of stuff because I got tested out years ago. But now I didn't know this part. Actually, this kind of shocked me. Not shocked me, but I was like, oh, I didn't know this. This is on the NHS website. It says if you have dyspraxia, you may also have other conditions such as ADHD, as we all know stands for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, dyslexia, just mentioned that. You may be on the autism spectrum disorder. Didn't know that. Difficulty learning or understanding maths. Now, at school, I loved maths. I love maths now because I've got a thing for numbers. I've got a thing for remembering stupid amount of numbers, codes, phone numbers, and so forth. I don't know how. I just do. Or I do actually. Next point. Now, for those that don't really know this, unless you're in music yourself or maths as well, music and maths work hand in hand perfectly, because without realizing it, you're literally counting all the time. You're counting notes to bars to time signatures and so forth, how to divide your music into sections, the bars, and so much more. So literally counting, dividing, and so forth, multiplying in a stupid amount of ways. So that's why music and maths work so well together, and that's just one way music is so beneficial. It helps in an incredible amount of ways, but music and maths are the best ways possible. And the last thing here, it says as well that it might have depression or anxiety. Now, going back to the social things as well and finding things difficult, yeah, I've become depressed sometimes without telling people about it. Like we said a million times already, like when you, for someone like myself, I'm always happy. I love everyone and everything. But when you find this, like I said this a million times, so I apologize. Part of my problem, sorry. When I find like these simple things really difficult, like simple things, whether it's grasping like a pencil and dropping it, or catching a ball, or talking to people about a subject that I know I'm so passionate about, like my podcast and the orchestra, it can have an effect on you. Of course it can, because like I said earlier, in my mind, I've got it perfectly laid out of what to say, but my mind and brain won't allow me to say it properly. And this makes me depressed. It makes me anxious as well, and that's just part of what dyspraxia is. But the good thing about dyspraxia, a positive about it, is it makes you work twice as hard. It makes you more determined to be better, which I am. My work ethic, I like to feel, is brilliant, because I get that from my dad. My dad's bloody hard worker, so is my mum, but they both are. I know that my ability levels aren't as high as everyone else's, but my work rate is better than everyone else's, well, a lot of people's, and because of that, I've achieved so much in my life. So the TED Talks, BBC One Extra, BGT, to winning awards, even just setting up the orchestra in the first place, and doing this podcast, being a full-time teacher, tutor, inspiring people. My work rate is amazing, and doing these things inspires not only myself, but hopefully inspires other people too. And that's why before I wasn't going to talk about my dyspraxia, but I thought, if I can do it, you can do it as well. And I just want to inspire as many people as possible. And that's why I love being a teacher, because I've taught kids from all different kinds of backgrounds who have several different problems, whether it's dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, ADHD, and just seeing them grow in different ways, saying, I can't do this, Mr. Well, they call me Mr. Savvides or Mr. George, depending on what school I work at. And when I give them the theme of the term or the week, saying, okay, we're working on this. For instance, we're working on composing this week. This is what I want you to do this week. I've seen kids go from crying their eyes out, saying they can't do it, to being the most confident person in the class. And I feel that having dyspraxia and having the know-how of how to overcome these things, and being a teacher and helping these kids become better, is something that I love. And yeah, like I said, like, if I can do it, you can do it. And I want to go to the next thing now. I'll kind of skip a couple of bits. I'll kind of rush through it now because I want to bore the hell out of you. But causes of dyspraxia, it's more common in men, and it runs in families. But it's not known what causes dyspraxia. But if you're born premature, which I was, there's a higher risk of it. Which I want to get into on my side because it's quite upsetting. But I'll skip that bit as well. But things to help out. So keeping fit, which I do. So I go gym 3 times a week. I do a lot of walking. And I feel that helps me to concentrate better. It helps me on my balance a bit better. Even though I'm still clumsy as hell, it just helps me to keep my balance better. It helps out my core, my focus, and so forth. Like I'm doing right now, learn how to use a computer or laptop, which I use every day, because like I said earlier, writing things down, it helps me, but at the same time, my writing is terrible. So just typing things down or doing emails, whatever you need to do, or write on a Word document, whatever you need to do that. Use a calendar or a diary, which I mentioned earlier, to improve your organisation. Now, if you look at my diary on my phone, it's mental. Like, literally, it's just covered with dates and deadlines and so forth, and events and rehearsals and the rest of it. So diary, that's a key one, actually. I highly recommend using a diary on your phone if you can, because I do it all the time. Because I realise that if I don't do it right away, it won't happen. I'll forget it straight away. So diary, even using a post-it note somewhere, or like leaving it where you know you're going to find it, they're good. But diaries, post-it notes, they're brilliant. Now, learn how to talk positively about your challenges and how you've overcome them. So hopefully what I've spoken about today in this episode has hopefully helped clarify a few bits and how to overcome them. And yeah, there are other places that you can find support, such as Dyspraxia Foundation to Dyspraxia Adults, and another place called Movement Matters UK. Now, I've never used any of them myself, but they're just the links on the NHS website, which I will use, which I will, obviously, like I said earlier, I'll leave in the link below. But yeah, like, just living with dyspraxia, like we mentioned throughout this episode, is really difficult. Speech, movement, coordination, finding things really difficult, but you're not alone. And if you are struggling with dyspraxia, just talk to people about it, and there's always people out there to help you. So if I can do it, you can do it. And hopefully this episode has cleared things up for you and kind of broadened your horizons a bit and opened up your eyes to what I go through all the time, and what other people with dyspraxia go through as well. And yeah, hopefully it helps. So that's another episode, and I'll leave it right there. But peace, take care.